Welcome to The Forecast, a Fortify Rights podcast. We bring you to the front lines of human rights work.
Thailand has been deemed as an LGBTI plus heaven. It seems like the rainbow future is on the horizon. Are we getting closer to becoming a true heaven for LGBTI people?
I think it's a long way to go, but we are actually really stepping at the right time, at the right beginning. There are also those people who hold more of a traditional values of what a family means. What about parents? What about the word mother and father? We need to open up for LGBTQI parents too.
On March 27, 2024, Thailand's lower house passes a bill to legalize marriage rights for LGBTI persons, but there are still shortcomings that need to be addressed. What's the forecast for marriage equality and LGBTI families in Thailand? Stay tuned.
Hi, it's Supachai Kunawong here. I'm the communication specialist at Fortify Rights, and today we'll be forecasting marriage equality in Thailand. And we're here at the Fort, a space for change in Bangkok, and join me in this studio is none other than my beautiful colleague and advocate for LGBTI and women's rights, Mukdapha Yangyin Pradon. Welcome to the show, Muk.
Hi, thanks for having me here today.
So first of all, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and your work and the issues that you're focusing on?
Sure. So I'm currently a human rights associate at Fortify Rights, and the issue that I'm mostly covering is domestic issues in Thailand, and they are mostly gender-related issues. So I embarked on, working on ensuring marriage equality for LGBTQI communities in Thailand. Yeah.
Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your work in the parliament, serving as an advisor to a committee scrutinizing the marriage equality bills. That's really a big deal. Can you tell us a bit more about your work in the parliament?
Thank you so much. It's really a big deal, and I think it's the first time in the history too that civil society organizations and activism on the ground has this opportunity to enter the parliament, to be there to represent our voices at this legislative process. So the work around, this committee is to try to ensure that revision of the marriage equality bill goes in line with international human rights standards, whether it's the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and then other international conventions and treaties too, and also bring in good practices from other countries when it comes to laws on LGBTQI protection, and of course laws on marriage equality from other countries too. So I was there as an advisor, joining along other advisors and also the committee members to make sure that we have the best version of marriage equality bill that we have, that we can have, so that this will be really pushed into law, so that LGBTQI communities can enjoy.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of your work in the parliament, I think it would be helpful for our audience to know a bit about the context of the marriage equality bill. What exactly the LGBTI community are pushing for?
Marriage equality is actually not something new. The LGBTQI community has long been campaigning and advocating for these issues. It's just recently that it's, pushed into the mainstream kind of political agenda. Just, I think in December last year, we have 4 versions of the bill trying to amend the Civil and Commercial Code. So just to give you a bit of a context, in the Civil and Commercial Code at the moment, we have the word, a man and a woman who can get married, right? And because that's a very gendered word, so we are trying to propose to change those words from man and women to, say, individuals, to open up for people of all genders to be able to marry. It triggers a start of, revisions of many, many other bills that's related to spousal rights. I believe that a fight for marriage equality is a matter of life and death, because it's not about just 2 people being able to walk to the administrative office and sign a paper and then just announce that they are, spouses. But it's actually all other rights that heterosexual spouses can enjoy, then LGBTQI couples would be able to enjoy those rights too. For example, I think the one of the most important one is healthcare consent.
Yeah.
If one of the couples get into an accident and they'd have to do medical surgeries, then the other couple would have the right and would be able to, sign to give consent on behalf of their partner. So that's one of the things. The other things is also, for example, rights to adoption for
Yeah.
LGBTQI parents, rights to tax deductions and other, government benefits like spousal benefits that they can enjoy.
You mentioned that, this call for equality has been there, in Thailand for a long time. But why now? All of a sudden, we have 4 bills and, this public support and political will are so tremendous. What happened in the past 5 years or 10 years?
I think it's impossible to talk about marriage equality without, taking into account and without, expressing our gratitude to the activism and actually especially the youth activists who kind of came out during, nationwide pro-democracy protests in 2020. They're not just calling for democracy for Thailand, but they were saying that alongside democracy, LGBTQI agenda needs to be inserted, needs to be included in what we call modern democracy. It's not the very, very first beginning of this movement for sure, but I think it's one of the recent ones that brings us this far. We have a lot of activists to thank for. It's the accumulation of continuous campaigning and advocacy of activists who came before us
Right.
and who's fighting alongside us at the moment. Yeah.
Like Thailand has been deemed as an LGBTI plus heaven. But actually in reality, people are saying that this is kind of a myth, on a daily basis, LGBT people are facing some form of discrimination, from state policies, from even public intolerance. Some people might not actually take us or LGBTI rights seriously for the longest time. So it seems like the rainbow future is on the horizon. Are we getting closer to the true heaven, becoming a true heaven for LGBTI people?
I think it's a long way to go, but we're actually really stepping at the right time, at the right beginning to be able to push this agenda this far. And it's not just somebody's agenda, it's everybody's agenda. It's open up to true equality for people in the country. There might be many interpretations of what heaven means.
Right.
For tourists, for foreigners, this might actually look like heaven for them. But I would also say that at the same time, as a person, born and raised in this country and being an insider and also seeing all the issues that's going on at the moment, there are a lot of indirect discrimination,
right.
as you mentioned, that's going on in this country, whether it comes from the state, from the law itself, or from attitudes of the people, the patriarchal, heterosexual kind of, understanding that's very imbued in our understanding of the world. To be able to pass marriage equality bill, it's like you're putting this paper on one of the biggest law in this country, the code, right? Then you're telling something to the general public. You're telling something to the people that it's not enough anymore to recognize just, heterosexual couples, not just a man and a woman.
Right.
There are so many, many more people who does not identify themselves as a man or a woman, or who are openly in a relationship with an LGBTQI people or the community itself. I think personally, the heaven might be a long way to go, but we're getting there. And I think it's a good start that would kind of inspire other countries, other places that might be kind of less fortunate than us when it comes to, gender expressions and LGBTQI as, forms of gender identities.
Right, and actually maybe heaven is not yet here and will never be here, but we're pushing for more equality every day.
For a better place.
For a better place, yeah. Maybe heaven is what we're aiming for always.
Yes.
What about what's happening in the parliament? Is that a heaven or headache? I've heard that a lot of activists have expressed, their emotions online about, facing, some form of, I don't know how to say it, like discrimination, or some challenges, working with the legislators in the parliament. What are the challenges? And did you also experience that?
Because a parliament itself is a stage for different opinions, right? And there are always clashes of thoughts, opinions, controversies, heated debates. When you're actually at the scene trying to work this bill to its, to make it the best version that we can, there were different opinions and different views in how far can we go when it comes to revision of a code itself that's been in Thailand since a century ago. For some people, they see this law as very, it's like a holy thing for them. Yeah. And it's to the point that they respect the legal text so much that that it might be impossible for them to see it as changeable, as revisable. So this is a conversation that's brought up. So of course, for civil society sides, for these organizations, LGBTQI activism, we're trying to push for, okay, it's not just enough to change men and women to individuals. What about parents? What about the word mother and father? We need to also, open up for LGBTQI parents too. So we need to push for putting the word parents in there. This is one of the examples of the debates. So a lot of work is also to kind of try to shape the attitude that's going on at the moment. And then it's not just, CSOs people and then also MPs, but there are also, officers from the governmental side, right? Office of the Council of State, legal experts, people from, ministries, like ministerial levels. So I think these are the kind of challenges that we see.
And it's not just the work, right, that they've been doing their whole life, but this kind of norms, the gendered norms and terminologies and ideologies as well. This is something that I feel like you guys had to push or like educate, to say the least, these legislators. But just going back to this, the changing, the revision of the word, like mother and father and parents, like what is the consequences of retaining, the father and mother terms?
I talked to a couple. One is a trans woman. She has her own child, and then she married with her husband, who also has their own child, has his own child too. So they kind of remarried. But then because of her being a trans woman, then they cannot, have the other's child as their own. It's lacking really for them when it's come to giving full protection and love and care to their child, if the law doesn't open up to seeing them as, legal parents to their child.
As we all know, words do matter and words have consequences. In the case of LGBTI parents or children of LGBTI couples, they are lacking certain rights because of these terminologies. So I think it's really important that the civil society and you and others are pushing for it. Talking about the process of passing this bill, like where are we at now?
After the reading in the lower house, the bill then goes to another 3 readings in the upper house, the Senate, right? And then after that, once all the reading is passed by both the houses, it then undergoes scrutiny by the Constitutional Court to see if that bill or that proposed law is unconstitutional or not, right? It's like the usual process. And then once it goes to the court, it's then ultimately signed into law and by the king and then published in the Royal Gazette. So it's really like very technical and all the kind of bits and pieces of, legislative process that I came to learn too when I embarked on working on this issue. It served to show that for a bill to be passed into law, it's not an easy work.
So basically, there are many more stages ahead of us
Yes.
until we become, until we were granted with this
Yeah.
right. How are you and, the LGBTI community and civil society make sure that the final bill will provide equal rights to LGBTI people in Thailand?
So actually the civil society sectors, mainly the Rainbow Coalition for Marriage Equality, and also like human rights organizations like Us 45 Rights and other organizations, we are striving really hard to, initiate conversations at every steps along the way. We've had conversations with members of the parliament in the lower house, initiated conversations with the senates, like the senators, to kind of try our best to ensure that whatever that's our agenda made it to the final version of the bill. There's actually no guarantee that we would make it, right? At some point, the bill would be out of our hands. I believe that to kind of keep this conversation going, keep encouraging and talking about this issue, and then bringing in more and more people to talk about this issue, then there'll be more and more questions coming up, and then the Thai government, the Senate, or the court, whoever is in the decision, these questions they would have to answer the people, especially to answer the LGBTQI community.
So it's important for, all of us to keep an eye on this law and continue to fight.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just what we discussed, the future might not, like the heaven might not come, but we have to go there.
We have to.
We have to move closer to it.
There's no other way.
Right. That's a wrap for today, but our work ensuring marriage equality rights continue. Thank you so much, Mook, for joining, and thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been The Forecast. See you next time.